What's going on, guys? Ben from Sculpt Fitness. I'm here with the very great, Jon Maneen. Jon Maneen. I said your name. I didn't butcher it.
That's perfect.
From Rebound, owner of Rebound Physical Therapy. It is a phenomenal. I've been following your stuff. I super like what I'm seeing, and that's why I kind of I thought of you for like a good health leader on the things that you were communicating and talking about in your posts. Kind of, we have a similar
idea.
I think we have a similar view on how we view strength training and how we view nutrition stuff. We won't really get into today, but let's really focus on the strength training and kind of what you've been doing this past 10? How long you been involved in PT? How long you been involved with just the community, strength training, everything?
So I finished undergrad in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
From there, I actually finished undergrad as a strength and conditioning coach, and I actually worked as only a strength conditioning coach and massage therapist for 7 years. And through that time, we actually had a really good relationship with a physical therapy clinic. We were with Bay State Rehab, and I started noticing some patients that were either getting hurt in their game or started coming in and being like, "Oh, my knee hurts," this, that, and the other thing. And so with me, it was kind of like, okay, well, I have ideas like how to train around it and hopefully it goes away, but I don't really know how to like fix it. Right?
Yeah.
So at that point, I just decided to be like, hey, Jim, he was our physical therapist. I said, Jim, can I come with my patients to their PT and kind of just learn how you're doing everything? And he's like, yeah, sure. So I did that. I did that for like 2 years, just like observing, learning, and it was fantastic. And I started actually getting more satisfaction out of helping people that were already kind of like down from their baseline.
Yeah.
Right? And then helping them get back to baseline versus taking healthy athletes and individuals and just improving their performance. Yeah. And I wouldn't even say a lot of the like techniques and strategies are much different, right?
Yeah.
But it's just having a good idea of how to strategize to the pain, understanding if the pain is okay to somewhat work through, or if it's something that you should be shying away from, depending on like what tissue fault is kind of going on.
Yeah.
So that was a great learning experience. And since I got so excited with it, I was like, I'm just going to go back to PT school at like 27. So that was like,
yeah.
So
like, screw it. I'll just go back for another, how many more years?
3 it is now.
Oh, see, that's tough.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun.
I mean, but obviously it's paid you back,
it has.
It's huge. And then, so you went to school and like I said, where did, kind of going, hey, I need to go off and do something on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been working for a company for a while, and then I started seeing like having like certain like frustrations and stuff. But it was mostly like insurance based things, and it was with those kids that would only get like 6, 7, 8 visits, right? And it was kind of like they would still have issues, or they'd be like okay, but I still wasn't like very thrilled with them like heading back to sport at that time.
Yeah.
And it was mostly just like, hey, try to keep doing this stuff. I can like point you in the direction of some places to go, but it's kind of like on them to kind of get it done. So it was like, I had some frustration with that. And then especially with post-op patients, right? If you have somebody who, especially who's like an ACL, where rehab is, it should be like a year now. A lot of the research is showing like we used to send kids back at like 6 months, and the re-rupture rate is just huge, right?
Yeah,
and so you actually notice like a huge, it's a 50% decrease in re-rupture rate each month following, I believe 7 months, right?
Yeah.
So it is huge, just that other extra month. You can kind of keep putting onto that.
That's huge.
So now, yeah.
Really? That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a massive percentage.
That's just crazy then. Why wouldn't they make it that if they see that, if they know that information? Well, it is changing. Yeah. Yeah.
Depends. It really depends on
I hope so. It depends on who you know and like who you're doing it with.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true too.
So like having like good resources. So if like I was trying to like transfer somebody from my care to your care at this point would be like an awesome relationship. And that's what, we've tried to develop those relationships. Some would work out, some wouldn't, right? But you almost have to have that kind of good trust process and be like, yes, like this is where he or she is at. Here's the qualities we want them to be working on at this time. This is what we've been doing, and it's on you. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to reach out to me at any time. But it was just kind of the hard part about it, right? So it was kind of like we would do our best at that point, but then it just didn't seem like it was enough. So by that time, that was kind of like, I want I want to have my decision and my patient's decision on when they're actually done with PT. Like, I feel good. I am like actually like 150% because now I'm actually doing things that I can actually perform now that I couldn't even do before I got hurt, right?
That's a big one.
Yeah, so now we actually get to start working on like even more athletic qualities as opposed to like just strength, which is fantastic. And I would say the best thing that kind of comes out of it, and I think it's actually a blend between strength conditioning facilities and rehab, is you're actually like improving the athlete's confidence at that point.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
so
huge.
I've actually had parents come up to me and be like, and even just current patients, right? I've had parents come up and be like, you know, yada, yada, she's stronger, faster, whatever, but she is aggressive on the field. She is not hesitant, and she is like going full head of steam. And then like the other day, I had another patient who actually said to me, she's like, I never thought I'd be able to do, like, we were doing some just mock drills, like skipping drills and stuff like that. And she's like, I was always so fearful of doing these things, and you actually showed me that I can do it now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's fantastic, right? And then
That's that confidence, confidence building.
So that's all it is. It's just exposing them to like a certain stimulus or a certain exercise and having them build confidence in themselves, and then you just progress from there, which is great.
Yeah.
And even again, just showing people what they are actually capable of. Even this morning, one of my patients reached out and was like, hey, that hip warm up you showed me, I do that every morning now, and I feel amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, perfect, good. I'm glad. And that wasn't even something I told him to do. That's like something as part of like
protocol,
his like workout, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, good. You figured that all on your own. That's fantastic.
But
keep doing that then. If
I would take
that works,
I'm going to take credit for that. But yes, you're like, I knew it. I knew it all along. I would have totally done that. I'm such an asshole. I'd be like, no, dude, I knew it all along. But that's so big because you're improving and you're bridging the gap. We talked about this before. We talked about it before the podcast. Is we were talking about bridging that difference between when they come in, and then when they leave. You have this giant space of like, who do they see? What are they talking about? Who's helping them with their physical performance? What's good pain? What's bad pain? Depending on tissue, what tissue it is. And then also the last one is, are you enjoying yourself? Are you actually making them feel confident in the movements that they're making to translate to said activity? It could be, and I'm going to use this in a general. I mean, I train some athletes, but I train them in a more like personal training, type of way, which is very, very different. I've learned so much from maybe paying it more attention to physical therapists, and learned so much with paying attention to performance and how people feel, and also, have you injured them? Like, I have honestly can say that in the 12 years I've been doing it, nobody has been injured.
And like, that's something that everybody can say either.
That's huge. And I mean, during lifting, so I've had people get injured, like just things that they did were stupid, like they just fell or something like that. Right. But it has nothing. But that's not me. But I always find that the risk of injury and the reward of the exercise needs to balance out. Right? I mean,
agree.
Like, because people do things, they overdo things, and you're just like, why are you doing this movement? Like, why are you doing this? Like, it doesn't translate well, and it's a high risk of injury to a low reward yield. So it's like, why do it?
Correct.
And
I'd say that's a big part of the actual rehab process, right? Because we have a lot of people, especially with acute injuries, right, or post-op, where we have to get them back to running and sprinting and jumping and doing everything like that. And it's also a big part of the practice just to even talk about, hey, you're going to be doing this at practice today, right? Like, these are the things I want you to do at practice. And we keep building on that at practice. And for instance, I had another kid, this was actually this past week, ankle injury, and actually did very, very well in the clinic, right? We started like some extensive plyos, and he was looking solid, like no pain, no issues. And we did a decent amount of volume. And I'm like, okay, for practice, what I want you to focus on is you can go through the whole warm up with the team, and I want you to only focus on closed drills. So drills that like, what you're doing, you have an intent. You're not exactly like reacting, but you're kind of going through the drill, right?
Yeah.
And I saw him Friday morning, I believe. He comes in limping, right? And I'm like,
yeah,
what's going on? What happened?
Scary.
And he's like, oh, I scrimmaged for the past 2 days, and like I did all out of practice. And I'm like, what? It was just, again, what do we talk about?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So it's kind of like that reassurance. And it's like, I want to stick on track. I'm giving you this advice, right? So you kind of, and it's the same thing. You want to have them understand like what is okay, what is not okay. If they go off on their own and decide to do more, that's on them. But also kind of giving them the, you can do this. That's like, this is probably what's going to happen, right? So there are certain times. So this past fall, I had a senior soccer player, right? Female soccer player. She ankle sprained and she had senior week in like 3 weeks. And she's like, can I be back? And I'm like,
yeah,
maybe,
yeah.
right? So I was like, listen, what is important to you is important. Like, are you guys going to be making playoffs? Yes or no? Or do we want to be ready for playoffs? You're going to college to play soccer, right? So it's like, those are kind of like the big things,
that's
right?
A risk,
How big is senior night? And she's like, I want to play senior night no matter what. And I was like, fine, we will do our best. And she was like in a boot on crutches. And I'm like, we'll do our best to get you there. And we'll just play it by ear, right? If you can show me certain qualities in here, then we'll say like, yes, you can do X amount of time out in the field. And we got her there. Like she went and she actually played her whole senior night, right? She obviously had to wear like a lace up and we modified certain things on like amount of play time at once.
Yeah.
Right? But she got to go out and play and that was great. And then the rest of the season, it was mostly like managing symptoms and like managing her play time throughout the rest. And then once it hit playoffs, like she was feeling much better. I would say she's probably like 90-ish%. But then again, it's just kind of taking care of her in the moment. And then once we finish the season, then it's kind of like, let's get back to work. Let's kind of focus on those small things that we kind of need to improve. And then like the next thing up is college, right? So it's just getting ready for that.
And that's a huge risk as well. That's a different, you just briefly talked about something where it's also very risky. I was talking before, I was talking in context of doing an exercise that you're doing that doesn't match your sport. But the other thing is the risk is, are you doing something to risk for what? Senior night? It's like, what about college? These are higher power things. Like, it's like, let's say they have a school. It's like, if you get injured now, that's not going to look good later, which is a high risk to reward. So it's cool that you have them understand that. And you also talk about play times too, where you're like, hey, you probably should maybe play for like, 10 minutes and then, get off and, just kind of take it easy or whatever. But it's good that, you're actually able to have that conversation. How often are they like, no, dude, like I can play the whole time. And you're like, dude, come on. You can't do that.
That's kind of where it talks about coming from like the risk reward.
Athletes are tough. Because you're like, come on, dude. Either they're wimps.
You got to think about like yourself. Like, what would I do in this situation?
Well, you and I know.
Right?
Yeah, we would do it. We would do it.
I completely understand.
We'd be dragging our leg out there. Just like, yeah, let's just do it. And they'd be like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, athletes are weird. They're either, the tough as nails just type, or they're just wimps like, oh my God, I heard something. And you're like,
oh yeah,
you're like, oh, come on, dude. I
definitely have a few of those where it's more reassurance, like you are okay.
yeah, you're fine. Yeah, you're fine.
But then that's just showing them that like, let's go from this to this to this, and then showing them like, yes, you can squat, you can lunge, you can jog, you can skip, we can sprint at X amount of effort. So like, just showing them all that stuff, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I'm good.
Yeah, so I guess I am fine. And you're like, yeah, dude, that's what I was telling you to begin with. And so you're serving a lot of young athletes, people before they go to college, in college, professional.
Yeah,
what's your
right now? Like, obviously, a lot of college kids are
Okay.
at college, right? So you don't see a lot of them until summertime. I would say mostly like high school, junior high. You see a lot of, and then the other half I would say is more like the active adults. So like adults that are involved in like running sports, gyms like Sculpt Fitness. If anything ever happens here or outside of Sculpt, right? A lot of CrossFit guys just kind of understanding like, oh, I have like,
I don't know why I started laughing when you said CrossFit. I'm sorry.
It's a tough sport. I think CrossFit. I think CrossFit is awesome, and I think any gym is awesome that builds a community that helps with each other.
Yes,
right?
I agree with that, but I think some of the I think some of the high amounts of volume, intensity in that is where people get hurt.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, that's what you see. It's the Olympic lifting with high volume. It's like the biggest thing that I've kind of noticed with it. And it's like, and that's why I'm like,
I do want to talk to you about volume, and I know like volume is like, so basically for people who are listening and they want to understand. So it's how many times you do something, you do a movement, how many sets you do, how many reps you do. So in context, like a low thing, which would be a lower risk of injury or, just by default, and a typical strength program, we'll go with the easiest cookie cutter, 5x5. Like just doing a 5x5, 5x3, 5x1. You got 5 sets, 5 reps. It's fairly low risk of injury. You're not, like, powerlifters too are amazing. Like if we look at the amount of injuries they actually sustain and how long they could do it for. Like I know like 60-year-old powerlifters. I know dudes that like still can do that. There's a relatively low risk of injury within reason.
Depending on what intensity.
Depending what insane person you're working with. But yes. But with CrossFit, I've always found that the general wellness types that kind of walk into CrossFit, they're going to see, high amounts of, elbow, shoulder, knee, just pain, just overall with the high amounts of reps. They're not used to a lot of that stuff. So I always find stick to the basics for a longer before you go into CrossFit, before you do. I've done, I think like 2 weeks of CrossFit, and I was like, man, these people hustle. Like I was like, man, they hustle. They work. And I remember them trying to kill me, but trying to. And I was like, no, I'm fine. Like I'll be fine. But what I did notice is towards the end of when you're doing those high rep ranges and high volume, you start to get sloppy because that neuromuscular system's, fried up. Your muscles are fried up. Everything's fried up. I noticed it yesterday when I was hiking. It's only like my 3rd hike, you know what I mean? Like, and it was moderate, like it wasn't crazy. But what I noticed towards the end of the hike, I was like, man, your ankles get a little, toasty, your quads get toasty, and you're just like, you're kind of getting sloppy. So then that's when you usually make a mistake towards the end of the hike. You just trip over something. You didn't lift your legs up enough, and then you end up getting injured. So I always tell people, at least in the context, I try to focus on that individual side before you go and do something in a group like that, because that's usually the thing. You're like, I'm going to keep up with this guy. I'm going to keep up with this guy.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, dude, you can't keep up with that guy. That guy's his own entity.
Yeah.
This person's
He's been doing this for 15 years.
Exactly.
You started 5 days ago.
You started 5 days, and you're not, and you're trying to, clean and press 225 pounds. I don't think this is going to happen, and I think that I get those injuries a lot. Like I get those people who have come from a group training setting, not necessarily CrossFit, but it's usually a group setting training, and they're like, I need to focus more on individualized personal training, or 1-on-2, 1-on-3, whatever. So then that way, you're really monitoring them, because I also feel like they feel like slighted, by that system. They're almost like, I need somebody to watch me, and you're like, yeah, you do. Yeah, you really do. So you don't get injured, and you don't get hurt, and so they don't have to spend as much time with you, and that's a good thing. And that's another thing. It's got to feel so good for you to be like, baby bird, go fly, and then you really see them kill it. Like you really see them do a great job with all of the things you've done.
I mean, a lot of people laugh because I get like really excited when I see something good.
Yeah,
and so I'm
stoked.
I start like yelling, I'm clapping, and I'm like everything gets like,
dude, I love
right.
that.
So it's like I get really excited when we see good stuff, right? And it's good because it's not so much like, hey, I'm cleared for PT, now I can go do this. It's more like I'm in PT, I'm still going. So say I have one of your clients, right? I have PT. I started at PT. I'm still going to Sculpt. I'm modifying X, Y, and Z, right? That's week 1, week 2-ish. Week 3, good. Now I got progressed to this. I could start doing this exercise again because this thing doesn't hurt anymore, right? So you're still going to the gym. Like I'm not pulling anybody out unless for some reason they're like they can't walk or something. Yeah, like
it's
that,
something
right? So
monumental.
it has to be like something that, unless it's something like actually serious, right, and nothing we can kind of work around. Like I still want them to live their life and do everything. And so it was the same thing with another soccer player actually. Like I did tell her there was 1 week where she couldn't walk because she had like a hip strain, and so it was like, we can't do anything this week. I just want you to focus on your PT exercises. Then it was like, good, let's work back into one practice, right?
Yeah.
But we're still going to do all our PT stuff. And then it was like scaling down how much we do from PT and increasing the amount of soccer activity we're doing.
Volume, increasing the volume of stimulus that her body would actually encompass, like actually come volume and sense of how many times she went to practice, how many times she went to the gym.
Yep.
And you're giving her more and more in a slow sense to get her back up, build her confidence, build her body, and boom. See, that's I think, what bridging that gap between when you first see them and now they're just like off doing it. That middle is, I think, I mean, you're going to speak on it better than I can. That's the hardest part, the meaty middle. Nobody sees that part. When somebody gets injured, they see the injury, them limping off the field or them limping off the court or whatever. And then, fast forward, everybody forgets about you for 6 weeks. The person's still out 7 weeks. You're the person that's in the center and they're with them. And that's so huge to be able to build that. And dude, I'd be jumping up and down too if I see him running back in. I'm like, yeah, let's go. I did that with one of my clients. It's our clients, but she's phenomenal. And she's a great deadlifter. She has such a beautiful deadlift. I mean, it's really something to see. And, so she's like, I'm like, you really should try pulling 275. I think you'd be fine, and she's like, really? You think I could do it? Not only did she do it, I mean, it flew off the ground. Beautiful. It looked so good. And we all went nuts. That's awesome. And that's my favorite thing. I can't help it. That's why I do what I've done for the past 12 years. It's like, I get so excited just like you. And I think when you really like what you do, and you enjoy seeing them improve, and it really does ignite that bit into you, which is why you have your own company, which is why you've done those things, which is why you get so juiced up. I mean, it's like, that's what we do. That's why we did it,
It is. And especially obviously we get excited, but then when you see them get excited and they're like, and you'll kind of go through that process of returning to running and stuff like that. I'm running, but it doesn't feel that good. And then, obviously you see improvement. And then, so I actually got a text from one of my other patients who was coming off ACL. She actually tore it in soccer and had surgery and is actually, in track right now. She's doing outdoor, right? And she's running. And I was like, first meet, she's like, it actually went better than I expected. That's great. Yeah. I ran this time. And I'm like, good. You're going to improve every meet. And I wouldn't be shocked because she was only I think a second and a half off her PR. And I'm like, you're going to hit that PR in 3 meets, no matter what. And so, and she was like, really? I was like, I swear to God. And then she texted me the other day at her second meet and was like, yo, she ran the 400 and the 4x4. She ran her 400, right? Just herself in, I think, what was it?
It's quick, whatever it was.
It was fast. But then she ran the relay 2 seconds faster, which doesn't make sense. And I'm like,
that's so crazy.
I'm like, how did that happen? She's like, I don't know. I think I was just nervous. So I'm like, so you have it in you. So here comes this next meet, like we talked about, and that's her qualifying.
Well, you did 3 things there, really. Let's dissect this for a little bit, and it's great when we're talking about PRs or any performance stuff. 1, you inspired confidence by saying what you said. Huge. Mm-hmm. You're giving her, I'm confident in your ability, and I know you can do this. Then she inspires confidence in herself. Then she also is physically better. So now you take that is a recipe for success. And all it takes is just a little bit of encouragement, this much, to get somebody to perform better. And that's why, staying encouraging and being kind and really, leading by example and doing those things helps people like that perform. And, I mean, we could sprinkle in a little bit of a placebo effect as well. She's really feeling on top of the world because she's been working with you and you've been making it better, but it's a combination. It's a multivariable of success. That's why I see a lot of athletes that after they do work with somebody like you, they're able to perform better because you said it before, you're giving them the confidence to do even better than they did before. Mm-hmm. And so when they have that and they put that on the field and they put that on there and they get PRs and they do those types of things, it makes it, one, like I said, worth it for you. But like you and I said, we get to see the excitement and PRing is the best. If you get personal records, it is the best day.
You don't forget it.
Oh, dude, you don't forget it.
You forget all the PRs that happened prior to that.
Yeah, you're like, the last one you definitely...
I can tell you, my last 3 I had, I was like, it was in 2000.
Yeah. You
I
know
was
what,
at this location,
you know
and
the
I
date,
did those numbers and
the time, what you were wearing. Yeah. It's so funny. You're like, yeah, I was wearing a yellow hat. And I was this. It's, I mean, we talked about it a little bit before, but I definitely want to go in through, and this is more for, I think that people want to know what, I mean, they obviously know what I think as far as a personal training sense, and I can go through those and you can make fun of me if you want to. So for the best pound for pound, like I said, just general wellness, the rest of your life, what would you like to see somebody do from the time they're able to do things 6, 7, 8, training to 95, 100 years old? What would you say? And in that context, say the 3 best movements pound for pound people should be trying to do. Maybe not doing, trying to do. 3. I like playing these games. These are great games. Yeah.
Being, and this may sound like coming from an athlete standpoint or not, but you still see carryover at that older age population, given the huge fall risk, right, that they have. So the first thing that actually diminishes in the elderly, right, is their power production, right? Mm-hmm. So
hands and quads.
Yeah. Right. So I would say everybody, and it's different. It's different for the prepubescent person, right? So I would say everybody should be able to start lifting weights, right? Lifting weights with the intent of improving their strength. I think everybody needs to be able to do sprint or some sort of like power movement, right, at that stage. And that might look different from a 6-year-old to a 20-year-old
to a 90-year-old,
40-year-old to a 90-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So that all changes depending on their capabilities and kind of just where they're at in life and, how they're developing physically. And I think everybody, and it's one thing that's neglected, especially in, I'd even say in more males than females, but also depending on sport, but like everybody should have that kind of aerobic base because, you have your like high intensity group and then you have your like marathon runners.
Slow duration.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think obviously a lot of my marathon runners should be doing more shorter distance, faster work. Right. And then my HIIT people need to actually put in some sort of aerobic base. Whereas me being in more of like the lifting and like somewhat of a HIIT sense, right? I have to constantly tell myself, you need to do something. Even if it's just go for a walk.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Walking is the best. Like, walking is probably the best.
I can go for a 30-minute walk and I actually feel way, way better when I do.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So, I mean, if I had to pick 3 things, I would say you have to have something involved aerobically, like so like long, and it's easy. It doesn't have to be like a long, hard run. It could be like a long, easy run.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Something for some sort of power development. Like I said, that can change between what your life is like. So, I mean, you could use skipping as a variation.
Yeah.
Right? Even if that's very low level, and you can even be holding on to that. And then obviously moving into your more like continuous actual plyometrics, depending on what you're trying to go for. And then everybody should be lifting heavy. It's heavy. Right?
Yeah.
It's
well, heavy is relative.
Like a relative term.
Yeah. Heavy is relative to the person.
And then for my 6-year-olds, you're like, oh, you want a 6-year-old lifting heavy? And I'm like, no, I want them learning how to like squat and pick things up and push things overhead with good technique and kind of like understanding how to do it, right? Because you're not increasing muscle size or strength. It's more like developing neural patterns at that point, right?
Yeah.
So if you can just start developing those patterns solid, you'll see a lot less injury risk at that end way down the line.
Yeah. So those 3 things you think are some of the most important things to have from a young to an old standpoint.
Yeah. And I mean, because
huge.
I know
relative to the person. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I mean, you can even take, say something as easy as a squat, right? How do you want to squat from a relatively heavy standpoint? Okay, there's a zillion squat variations we could do depending on what they need, but say we just pick squat. I can squat heavy, right? I can do squat jumps for my power thing, and I can do sets of 40 to 50 for my aerobic, right? That'd be much more high intensity than the actual aerobic standpoint, but like, I can do something for a long period of time, essentially. So, like, it doesn't matter kind of like what the exercise is, but like, is this exercise getting me what goals or qualities that I'm trying to achieve?
Yeah.
Right.
I agree. I think seeing that in what we know about, so to people listening or watching, So what we know about young kids is we do know that we're trying to build their neuromuscular strength. The thing that you see, the process you see from week 1 to about week 3, all the way up, all the time really, is neuromuscular efficiency happening each time you're training. So people go, I'm getting so much stronger. It's like, okay, yeah, but it's really just neuromuscularly. It's
I don't
firing.
tell them that. I tell them you're getting jacked, dude, you look awesome.
I say the same thing, but in my head, I'm going, they're seeing that my biceps look different. Sure, yeah, sure. That's great. Probably not till like week 9 or 10, but yes. But what we know about children now, the old myth of them weightlifting is gone now. That's kind of been put to rest. However, them breaking a bone is very, very tough, especially when the epiphyseal plates are developing. You don't want to break those because those bones are trying to hard. They're trying to osteophy eventually. If you break those, that can speed up that process on one side, not so much on the other, correct? And get that kind of like stunted thing. So
that's when you'll start seeing those kind of like lower limb.
Yes,
at that point
you'll see that. But however, they should be lifting, they should be sprinting, they should be outside. Which is why when I started boxing when I was like practicing training when I was like 12 or 13. The kids that were in there that were 7 were insane to watch. Yes, they also had 6 years on me, but to see them, even the ones that stopped from 10 to 16 or something, and then picked it back up like it was like, I'm like, they never put their glove, like, how long have you not been doing this? And they're like 4 years, 5 years. And I'm like, and they still looked fresh. That neuromuscular path like is like, oh, we remember this, so it was so amazing to see like that happen. But yeah, I went off on that tangent. It's so true to see. It's like, start them young. Trust me, just because you didn't do it when you were younger doesn't mean they shouldn't. It's like, I get a lot of parents like, is that okay for him to be sprinting outside? That's awesome. He's playing. It's awesome. That's what you want. I think the 3, like if I had to go 3 movements, I'm going to get meet Hetty in here, the personal trainer over here.
Do it.
I'm going to do it. I think 3 great movements that you could be doing that would really help you long term. If we're talking from the very beginning to the very end, I would say step ups are one of them, because they're the things that they're going to encounter the most and translates well over into a lot of things. Helps with quad strength. Doing them properly. So that, or stepping off doing the step ups or stepping down and then you pause right before the floor. What are those called? I forgot what those called. But Charles
posterior step down?
Yes,
okay,
yeah. Charles Poliquin was huge with those. Would do those. And when I found out about that guy, the strength sensei, he blew my mind. Yeah. And R.I.P. He died a couple years ago. It totally sucked because I read all his books, all his blogs, all his everything, and I was like so obsessed with Charles Poliquin. It was just like because he introduced me to trisets and giant sets, and I'm like, I've done supersets and compound sets and stuff like that, but a giant set I've never done. And then
4 or 5.
So you're doing exercises. A triset is 3, so you'd be doing 3 or more. You could do up to 5, which I never did. But I've done trisets where I would do all pulling exercises. And if you see a decrease in performance, obviously you're going too heavy or you just don't have it yet. So I started doing those, and I noticed such a difference in my muscle size and the capacity at which I could work.
And that's another thing. It's like, okay, what am I doing for like for your own training? It's like, okay, what was I doing I was only doing 3 sets of 10 with pull-ups on this day. Oh, now I'm doing 9, 15 sets.
Yeah, it's
right?
doing
so
those.
Like, yeah, you're doing more volume.
You're doing more.
Get way bigger.
Oh, way stronger.
Like, awesome.
I look like a baby rhino. So yeah, dude, I would do the step ups in a capacity. I would do a heavy carry. With anything really. I mean, dumbbells are cool. I like the farmer's walk. It's one of my favorite. Any carry variation. And don't beat me up on this, dude. John, don't beat me up on this. Deadlifts. I just have to. That would have been yours.
You're making me think, because now you're kind of like. I was thinking of like qualities that I want to express.
Yes.
In certain people. So I'm like, I think those would probably be the top 3.
Those are good.
3.
Yeah. Three exercises.
Exercises.
Yeah.
I think deadlifting is one of the most important things you can do.
Grip strength, quad strength, hamstring strength helps.
Upper back.
Yes, right? Massive. Look at my
get
back.
a ton of core stability.
Yeah.
Right? So I think I have a lot of people deadlift. And especially there's a lot of people that are like fearful of deadlifting.
Dude, I
and
love
people
deadlifting.
that have low back pain.
Yes.
Usually suck at deadlifting, right?
Well,
so
they
again,
usually
it's just
go
scaling back the deadlift and then working them back into whatever. Like, do you guys trap bar or straight bar?
I do both.
Both, right? So depending on what
yeah, I do everything.
So like depending on what they want to get back to, right? We might use kettlebells or something like that, like off a box, right?
Yes,
just
yeah.
Decreasing that range of motion. How do we feel here? Let's build up some volume here, and then working them down towards the floor, whatever they need to be able to get to, or whatever like their body mechanics kind of show that they can do that, and then building them back into the bar, and then building up the bar.
Up the bar. So the deadlift for sure.
Oh man, I would say pull-ups.
Pull-ups for sure. I was gonna say for grip strength, but then I remembered heavy carries because almost everybody could carry something. Remember, heavy is relative to the person. Right. It could be 5-pound dumbbells. It doesn't matter. So heavy carry, deadlift. If you say step up, dude. No. You said pull up, deadlift.
I would say some sort of single leg unsupported exercise. So you can pick like I like
similar to
box.
Similar
I like
to a
skater
step
squats.
up. Similar to a step up.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, kind of.
The only thing we said different was the farmer's walk and the pull up. Yours is pull up, mine's farmer's walk.
Yeah, I guess that was 3.
But
we didn't
pull
pick
up
any pushing exercise. Believe it or
yeah,
not,
but I
right?
mean, it's okay. I mean, who needs?
I would say 3
Do you
people
even need a
more often.
Yes,
that's the thing. Is like, hey, what have you been doing? No, I've been doing bench and buys.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
yeah, I usually get that guy or girl that are coming in, and I'm like, what are you doing in the gym? They're like, I do bicep curls, 5, and you're like, okay, and then like, I do bench press, and I'm like, okay, well,
what do you do for legs? I don't work legs.
I didn't even know yeah, they're like, I didn't even know I had legs. Yeah. And nobody, they don't even care. Like they don't care. They don't care. They're just like, what? What are those? Yeah. Well, so men skip legs all the time. Generally speaking, I see more females doing legs because they come to me to improve upper body strength. Generally speaking, and then with men, it's the opposite. So anybody who knows me and who's trained with me, you know. That nobody gets out of leg day. Nobody. And I've had guys that die hard were not going to do it. Gave me so much shit. I'm not, like, I don't need it. Yes, you do. You don't realize how much you need it. I mean, and they're like, why do we always squat? Because you need it. You definitely need it. Which I definitely think is a good segue into what movements do we think people overdo? And if you want me to go over, you go over just one. We get to pick one.
Oh.
Let's really hit this by personal experience.
I'm going to say 2 things.
Okay,
but
okay.
They're not the same.
They're not the same.
I'm going to say people overdo what they're already good at.
Okay.
As a general sense.
So like
right?
good at pressing. Okay, they press.
Yeah. So
okay.
if I have a dancer, right, or a gymnast, what is she going to be able to do? She's going to be super flexible. Mm-hmm. So what is she going to do all the time?
Stretch.
She's going to stretch the hell out of herself, right? Mm-hmm. What does she need? She needs strength.
Okay.
Right? What do my marathon runners do? They are really good at running. Typically, their strength sucks.
Yeah.
Right. And they're not probably most flexible people because they don't really have much
everything's tight
issue with that.
Yeah.
And then my really big guys that just lift heavy lift. They are just that big stiff guy.
Yeah.
Right? He probably needs some more like stretching and mobility at that point, right? So I mean, it's different with everybody.
That's me. That's right? me. Yeah.
But just understanding like what their history is, what they're trying to get to, and why they're coming to you.
Yeah.
They pretty much need the stuff that they're not doing, which is kind of like a no duh.
Yeah.
Because they're always doing the stuff they're already good at.
Dude, it's so true, and I think we all do that because that comfort.
Yeah, you feel good doing it.
That comfort zone. You're like, oh wow, I nailed it, and you're like, yeah, but you've been doing the same thing, you know. I remember when I had to change, and we go through this in waves. Before we do that, I'll say which one. I got my one. Okay, for sure. I see 2, and I'll do 2, but it'll be we'll do in general, and then I'll do this. So what I see is way too much bench press, like way too many bench pressing exercises. Like I'll be like, so
just all variations.
They're like, I'm gonna get a bigger bench. So this is what they tell me. I get a bigger bench. Cool. What'd you do? I did bench press. I did incline press. I did decline press. I did close grip press. I did all this press. I go, oh, cool. I go, but how have you improved? And they'll be like, well, I mean, like I'm kind of they'll say I'm in this like thing. I go, have you tried working your back? And they're like, what? Work my back to make my bench bigger? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, I don't know.
The more depth you got on that back, the less bar movement you got to go. So that's actually one thing.
Exactly. But then it's also stability when you get down into the movement to be able to stay stable. So when you press it up, you don't get all squirrely. Like when I was training when I was younger to get, I just wanted to, I used to do it. I was all bench press. It was like bench press. My bench was almost the same as my squat. That's how little I squatted. So for me to be able to bench 325, and eventually I got to there. I also weighed 220 pounds, so I'm like 30 pounds lighter. It was a great bench. It was a really, really good time. And I actually, the first time I did it, my buddy lied to me because I had 285 on the bar, and then I was benching 305, and I was getting them for one, and I was like, oh yeah, this is great. And I'm like, I'm like, hey, I bet I could do 315. We'll just do that. And so I went down, drove up, and I come back, and I was like, how much? And I looked back, and I saw the 3 plates, and I saw a little thing. I'm like, what's on the side? And he's like, oh, I just said, screw it, we'll just do it, right? And I'm like, what is wrong with you? You could have killed me.
How do you hit 3 plates and a 2.5 before you hit 3 plates?
Yeah, but I was just
that's such a big goal.
I know. He ruined
you put on it.
He ruined me. But he didn't understand. He was literally smoking a cigarette when he did it. We were in the garage. He was smoking a cigarette when he did it. Shout out to Kyle. What's up, bro? So I mean, it's important. I see a lot of pressing exercises, and I only know that because I did that. And I also see it with a lot of people who come in. So I get a lot of people like, bench. And I'm like, dude, you got to work on your back too, because as you come down for that stability to match where that chest is, like I said, you need to make sure that you're doing back exercises. So a nice flat row, or, I mean, you could, deadlifts help, pull-ups help. All those things help. Being able to retract those scapula properly. Now I have scapula winging. It's so annoying. Because of that accident, like if I go back, I could feel this one like really struggling. So I've been working on that. And I will say this, okay, you did too, I'll do too. So who overdoes? And I think that females, generally speaking, overdo lateral banded movements, like with the booty workouts. Like they just they're like, yeah, let's just, and it's like, okay. I get it. The girl with Gymshark leggings did it on Instagram, and you did that. But trust me, how she's building that ass is hip thrusts. Yeah. How she's building that ass, squats, curtsy lunges, and food. That ass needs nutrients. You know what I'm saying? So I always find it's always the tougher movements. If you're trying to find an easy way, you'll find out the hard way. There is no easy way. But if you lean into those tougher exercises, the exercises where the grit and the mental aspect is built, you build faster because you didn't try to dance around something that was easy. At least that's the way that I've been taught. Mm-hmm. This is fun. I like playing the exercise game. Let's just do one more. All right, what do you think the hardest exercise is? Pound for pound, the hardest mentally to perform, to grow, to do properly. I already have mine, so I already know.
You go first.
It's got to be a barbell squat. It's got to be a back squat. It's hard to improve. It's because you're under the bar. The bar is at the top. It's the highest risk of injury with everything. The bar is on your back. The world is on your back. There's nothing you can do. If you go down and you get buried, which just happens to me all the time because, but I think it's the hardest because it's also the hardest to teach to in the beginning. Hey, make sure you open up, make sure you get down there, make sure your feet are where, checklists, you got to do all the whole thing. I think it's got to be barbell squats. Got to be the hardest thing, dude. It's so hard for a lot of clients to teach. Like a lot of our clients will comment, I bet, like, what was the hardest exercise for you? And I'm going to bet that they'll say that.
On that.
Well, yeah, because it's probably easy for you. You were like, I did it fine. I'm like, no shit. You went to college.
I'm trying to think, like, when, like, because I was almost going to say Olympic lifting, but like,
yeah,
I've
for
taught,
sure.
Like 10-year-olds how to hang clean, and they looked perfect. So,
but that goes back to when you teach them young. It's just like if you would have taught it, because that's actually one of my requests. Like we'll talk about that. I need help Olympic lifting, like because I want to start doing it, because I've never done it. I've only, deadlift, I power lifted like that type of style.
Yeah.
But I'd like to start like hang clean, stuff like that. And I'd like you to teach me. We'll post on how great. Yeah.
I can do it.
You're like, Ben, you're trash.
So mine, I always taught it. I didn't teach it in the sense of wrapping your body around the bar for most weight.
Okay.
Essentially,
Okay.
I taught it more from a power development, triple extension, and jumping to kind of increase bar speed versus getting under the bar as quick as possible.
Okay.
Just because I was always in the athletic population, so that's the way.
Do you think that's the hardest thing to teach?
No,
or the hardest exercise?
10-year-olds do it. So
front squat.
I would probably say squat.
Squat or front squat?
You can make it. No, back squat way harder, right? Because you can actually improve somebody's position.
Yeah.
With that anterior load, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you can bail easy on front squats. You could be like, all right, peace. I'm done. I don't want to, like you could just dip it. Now,
hardest exercise to teach or hardest exercise to grind?
Both. I think it's back squat. It's got to be back squat, dude.
It's got to be a squat.
Let us know what the hardest exercise. This will probably be our clip. Let us know what the hardest exercise is to improve, teach, do, all that stuff. I think that's a valuable question.
I think that'd be great because then we can actually go over like
what it is.
How do I regress this? How do I get better at this? And then we can actually talk about building those positions too.
That's huge. Yeah. That's the question. Answer it.
All of them.
All of those questions. All of those questions. Listen to John. John, do you see the way that he said it?
I'm curious.
He said it as a scientist.
What is the hardest thing for somebody to learn?
You said it as a scientist. You're like, all of them. I need to know why are these questions suck. Tell me now. That's so funny. Dude, this is great.
We're flying.
Dude, we really are flying. It is a good time. So let these people know where to find you, how to get a hold of you, in contact with. I'll be working with John on some projects and some things that we talked about. So look for those. Look forward to those. But let them know where they can find you. Who should be reaching out to you? I think is a big one. So yeah, let's kind of plug those things along, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So my office is located in Berlin, Connecticut. It's called Rebound Physical Therapy. It's actually located inside of Elite Soccer Performance and Swanson Baseball, so we're all within that same kind of warehouse right there.
Yeah. It's a dope logo too. His logo's dope.
I had one of my buddies help me out with it.
It's the best.
He's good at Illustrator, so I was like, I have a vision, just make it. And I bet you he made like 50 copies because I was like, nope, got to be a little different. I want it like a little more this way. Nope, make it a little different.
Well, you nailed it. It's dope.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On our website, we do have a lot of blog posts that I've been trying to get like around like once a month in.
Yeah.
Some cool topics. I try to like find some controversial things because it's like a lot of people just view PT as more just like, hey, do your band walks and bridges and good luck. Do the same stuff at home, coming back to PT and do the same exercises, then you'll do the same. So it's kind of like, so I try and, kind of challenge those views and stuff like that on our blog. And then
website.
Yep. So website is reboundperformancept.com. And Instagram handle, I believe, is rebound_performancept.
Yeah.
Which would be easy to find.
Yeah. Reach out to him, follow him, give him a follow.
Yeah. Any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to help you. And if you feel like you need help, if you want to hop on a call, I'm always happy to talk it through if there's a way I can help you. And if not, if I don't think I'm the best person for you, I'm happy to send you out to who I think would be the best person. I'm not going to fake it until I actually know what's going on.
I noticed that quality in you as well, is that you want to know more than you want to be right. Like you want to know. So with that, passing that, with clients, it's great to be like, hey, I want to know too. So I'm going to point you in the right direction so that way we both can find out, so you can find out and then I can help you the best. And don't bullshit people too, because that's a big one as well. And that's why I recognize that in you. And I'm like, that's because I do the same thing. Like people are like, why do you have other personal trainers on and you own a personal training company? It's like, because I'm not afraid of my I'm the worst of your competition. You know what I mean? Most people are going to come to me and my staff because, we have that electricity. We have that, we really care. And I really wanted to do this as a career. So I have people on that are involved in health and wellness. And why? Because I want to know. I want to find out just as bad as you guys want to find out. Jon Maneen, dude, You did great. You
Thank
nailed
you.
it.
This
You
was a lot
nailed
of
it. You
fun.
nailed
I
it.
can't
You
wait to do
nailed
more
it.
of
Dude,
these
I have
with
a
you.
cool. We both have cool logos. Yeah, that's
I love the
I keep.
Superman look too.
I was staring at your chest, but not for the reason. Yeah, it's because the logo's there.
I'll start flexing for it.
Yeah, you just say it's just peck bouncing. All right, so we are out of here. Make sure you reach out to him. Super knowledgeable, Jon. Thank you for being on, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it. We're out of here.